Okay, all right. We're going to continue this the recap past reviews. We're going to go ahead and do this Bleach, and this is 545, titled Blue Stripes. All right, now we pick up with the Kurosaki family. Ishin, Yuzu, Karin, and um, Ishin's finishing up with a patient, and you know, video games is being played and food is being cooked. So and in the littlest one, and I think it's very I think it was very cute that you know how she ooh, excuse me. How they're just enjoying this family time right now, and given everything that that is happening, you know, with regard to the war and everything. And it's nice to get back to the human world and see how his family, how his family is doing. His sisters. Well, basically, it's just his sister. Karen and Yuzu. And I think it was very nice. I know. I remember a lot of people. They didn't really too much care for, but it's like you have to show full scale. You have to show the full balance of everything. And I think it's very cute that little Yuzu, how she's like, I wish Ichigo was back from training camp now, and yeah, he's doing some training, but it's not that kind of training, obviously, because she's most attached to him, really. And Karen is on the video game, and the scene's just being the scene. It's so I thought that was very well done, and something that was definitely needed for the story. So we continue with, back at the Soul Palace, and then you see Renji and Rukia doing the training, and how they're talking about, this kind of training they're doing now. They have to maintain their stance, and they're basically just holding their, just in a stance with swords, basically like wooden swords, and just holding that stance. And it's very hard to do because as you see the sweating profusely. This is something very hard. You think it's just a very simple task, but obviously the conditions in which they're in is not normal conditions. So it's very hard, and the reason that is because the racial density of the atmosphere is incredible where they're at. So and it's gotten better over time for them. It doesn't feel completely overwhelming now, is what Ruki is what she has said, but it still feels like being underwater. So can you imagine just like being outside in the air, but the air is just, you know, air is just heavy. Like you were like the gravity was just increased. Basically, that's what you would compare it to, like heavier gravity. And like if you was just standing outside, you're not inside of the water, but if the air, but it feels like water. So basically, or you could just say it's easier to think about it like if you were standing in a swimming pool, because the resistance, it's not easy to walk in water, so as compared to just standing, with the air all around you. So, and she gets a phone call, in that oh no, before that, and she also goes on to state that I have no idea what effect this kind of racial density has on us. And now we're going to the phone call she gets from Korenzi that her brother's healed, and what Korenzi is saying, yeah, that was a long bath. You're the first to bathe this long in my hot spring. Well, you lightheaded at all? He's asking. He's like, no need for you to worry. And everybody always know that how Byakuya is feeling. He's aware that his power is still not developed enough for him to get lightheaded, and you know, and that having survived the attack from his own Bankai that he needs to gain a power deserving of feeling lightheaded now. So yeah, he's very you know, he's happy that he did survive, but he knows that with this war and everything that is going on, that he's definitely going to have to, definitely going to have to do his best, even more so than he's ever done, to not only avenge his defeat, but it's to also to avenge the Captain Commander. You can get the sense that he feels that he let the Captain Commander down. You know, and the fact that he's no longer here, that it's a great deal of pain has been, has happened to Byakuya. Of pride, all of the pride that he has. You know, it's a lot of pain, and the only way to set that pain right is to go out and be victorious in battle. And so we go on to the next, and Renji and Rukia, they're recalling their time with the training that they, well, not training, how, the weave master, how Shinjumaru, how she basically had them take off all of their clothing, where they're completely naked. There was a funny comedy moment in it where she goes on, it's like, well, she said, I take measurements after I remove your family jewels. After I remove your jewels. So, and Renji was like, nope, 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 okay, I'll take everything off and just, so, and, hold on one moment. All right, I'm back. And basically what she's doing is that she's weaving brand new clothing for them. She's going to replace their. Now I have no idea whatsoever what the significance of that, of it is. Obviously, we should find out when Ichigo makes it to her once he leaves Namaya's place, so we can understand the significance of her role in the history of Soul Society and what her weaving, the brand new, clothing for them. Because it's very important. You think it's just a simple thing, just as clothing, but it has very significant meaning. And then we see the final member of the Royal Guard, and his name is introduced. It's Ichibi Hayosube, and he's known as the High Priest. And he goes on, he's like, he goes on when he noted that when Rukia and Renji first got there, it's like the ratio was so thick you two could barely move or breathe, and just imagine how thick that is when you can barely breathe. It's quite an improvement. He's like, well done. So is it time to train with me inside? And both of them are happy. They're like, yes, sir. So they're going on and continue the next phase of training inside. And so we'll also see what significance what he has done as well once Ichigo reaches that point. And so it goes on. It cut back to the human world go back to regular Soul Society in the human world with Shinji and Hiyori having a conversation and talking, and how that Shinji has a task for them, and there's something sent from him and Mayuri, and fixing the super pain. Well, what Hiyori says, the super pain in the butt distortion between the world of the living and the Soul Society crew. So basically, there's been tears and distortions, and they have to go and repair that between the human world and the Soul Society. So that's what the rest of the X-Visors are doing. They're going to go around and repair those holes so the worlds don't collide. And we see the rest of Ichigo's friends, and we see the new Captain Commander. The new Captain Commander, Shunsui. and how he's telling them that, it's about time to say goodbye to Ichigo. And so that's pretty much the end of the chapter right there. And we're going to go ahead and end it right here. And we'll pick this up in a few.